Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of Social Media Help Desk. I am Stephen Wagner. I'm the Director of Operations here at KWSM. I'm joined today by Taylor on my left, Senior Content Editor, and Daniel on my right, one of our website designers. And so before we get into it, a couple of announcements. First of all, in our Orange County office on July 11th, we're having a video studio day, and that's the opportunity for you to come in and get filmed and be on camera, and we'll produce 4 videos for you. Check it out on our website. We also have a boot camp coming up, social media boot camp in Atlanta. We're doing Facebook on July 26th. We're doing LinkedIn on August 2nd. So check out our website for that if you are interested. Okay, so there's a lot of things to talk about. First of all, happy Independence Day, because that's coming up this week. I hope everyone's going to have a fun and safe weekend. But before that, we're going to get into some interesting things that are happening on Instagram, on Twitter, and on YouTube. And then we're going to talk about ADA compliance, whether your website should be and if it should be, and then some great resources for marketing tools and tips that you might need. So let's get into some new stuff that's happening. So first of all, Instagram. Instagram, as we know, was started as an app, right? A mobile app. Yeah. And over the years, it slowly picked up a little bit on the desktop, and their desktop version has sort of like added more features. And so it was just rolled out recently that that they're releasing direct messaging capability for businesses on the Instagram desktop. So that's a nice little added feature that you can have. What do you guys think about this, Taylor?
I'm a little surprised that it actually took this long, and that Instagram hasn't put much emphasis on their URL capabilities compared to what all the things that the app can do. I mean, this is really just scratching the surface. Yeah. Before this was rolled out, pretty much all you could do is scroll through and view other people's pictures. Yeah. You can't post pictures from the desktop. You can't really do anything. So while I think this is the logical next step, especially because Instagram and Facebook put a lot of emphasis on advertising, and that is a very important part of their business structure. So I'm surprised that it took so long for them to just have this little capability. I think it also makes sense because now that Instagram Stories is such a huge part, if not the biggest part of the platform, whenever you reply to a story or you're interacting with someone's stories or you get tagged in a story, it all goes into your DMs. So it makes sense that now you're able to check those kind of things on the desktop, but I'm surprised that we're just now seeing this, and we didn't see this maybe when they rolled out Instagram Stories to begin with. Yeah,
no, I agree. I think it is interesting, and it's just for businesses right now. You know, you will assume that they'll roll it out to individuals. And I'm assuming it's so that a business, someone who's running a business account, like something that we would do, could more easily do that, since most of the work we do is on desktop computers, right? But it's still not really full capabilities. You can't post, like all that kind of stuff, right?
And even with influencers being such a huge thing now, and I mean, they are slowly starting to roll out the creator type of accounts, but still, for the majority of influencers, or for a lot of influencers, they still have personal accounts. They haven't switched over to the business yet because they're not really a business, but they are using their Instagram for business capabilities. And for them to not be able to check their Instagram DMs, where I'm sure they're getting a lot of brand deals and a lot of people are reaching out to them, for them not to be able to check that on the computer where they do most of their editing and their work, that seems like a mistake to me.
Yeah, no, I agree. So, Daniel, what do you think about it?
I agree. I'm surprised it took so long for this to happen. Every once in a while I'll go on my Facebook to see if I could do the messaging, and surprised it's not on there. So for businesses which run a lot of advertising on there, you would think that for desktop, where we mostly work on, it would be easier for us and more advertising money to go through that way.
Yeah. Well, what I have seen is through the Facebook Business Manager that have Instagram accounts connected to them. They're starting to see those messages and comments from the Instagram account alongside the Facebook comments and messages. And that's just kind of an interesting newer thing that's being rolled out. And to me, it was like very confusing when it first rolled out, because I was like, what is this? Like, why is this in here? But I think they are trying to integrate them to a certain degree. Which we'll see how that goes, right?
Yeah, I'm just waiting for when they'll actually let you post from the computer, because I mean, for the majority of people, they're just taking photos on their phone and they are uploading them that way. But for the influencers and probably some brands, they are doing like very highly edited photos, and then to have to transfer that to your phone, you probably lose some resolution that way. It's only a matter of time until we can post online as well.
I agree. Yeah, that whole process to get it from your computer to your phone.
Yeah.
It's kind of a pain.
Mhm.
Yeah. So anyway, so keep an eye out for that if you have a business account. Maybe look at some of the functions and features on the desktop app if you don't use that.
Step in the right direction, definitely.
Definitely. So next, let's talk about Twitter. Twitter is not something that we talk about a whole lot here. Not something that a whole lot of people use. It's like definitely love it or hate it. It's got a very closed community, so to speak. Taylor, are you a Twitter user?
I'm a huge
Love
Twitter is not my #1 platform for personal use.
All right, Daniel?
I got too confused on Twitter.
No, see, there you
I
go.
haven't been on it in
This
years.
is a prime example.
Yeah.
So one of the things that Twitter has, a feature that Twitter has, is lists, Twitter lists. And you know, when Twitter first launched years and years ago, lists were actually a fairly prominent thing. And what it allowed you to do was it allowed you to categorize people into different lists, so you could click on that list and then only see their updates, and so you don't get lost in like the sea of all the people that you're following. So for me, it was like, you know, wine, because I'm really into wine, so all the wine people that I followed, and then like celebrities, because I could just easily click on those and look at who was there. Over the years, they've really sort of like not put any emphasis on lists at all, really put it in the background. Like you'd only find it if you had to click three times to get to it. And now though, they're actually making it much more prominent. So what do you think about this, Taylor?
It's funny because I had never used it, and I know you said you're an
Years
early
ago, though.
adopter of this.
Yeah.
You've been using it for a long time. I had never used Twitter lists until they changed the layout. A couple weeks ago on Twitter, and now there's a very prominent big, it actually takes up like a fourth of your screen, the left-hand side bar, and it's things like your home, your messages, that kind of stuff, but then there's a big list one. So I was like, this is interesting. I knew what lists were, but I never really understood how I would integrate it in my own use of the platform. And now I've been using it a little bit.
Yeah.
It's taken me a while to get used to it. I mean, sometimes it just seems easier to look through my whole feed, but I have categorized, I have a lot of different interests, I follow a lot of different people based off of different things, and there's industry stuff, there's TV and movies, that kind of stuff, and so I have been starting to filter people into lists, and I've found that it's easier for me to kind of see what I'm looking for, and especially like, maybe if I'm avoiding a spoiler that night or something, and I don't want to look at all my TV people, but I still want to look at people I know in real life.
Yeah.
It's pretty helpful.
Yeah, no, I think it's pretty good. People are comparing it to like boards on Pinterest and just other ways that you can categorize things to make it more manageable. Because when you're following, you've got, I don't know, you're following even over 100 people or 500 or 1,000 or 2,000. Like your feed is just, it goes faster than you can even keep up with it.
And a lot of people often complain about the algorithm with channels and how they're not seeing the content from the people that they follow. And so I think that if that's a major concern for you, or you feel like you're always seeing tweets from a certain group of Twitter people, but then you're not seeing tweets from another group, I think that could be a good way to segment out your audience a little more and see more of the content that's on the platform.
Yeah, no, I agree. It should be interesting. Daniel, is this going to help you want to use Twitter at all?
I think it would, because I think that was the problem that kept me away from Twitter, was the clutter and just people retweeting other people that I didn't really care about. So I think with the list, it would help me organize stuff I do care about or something that's on my mind at that time and I want to look up. I can click the list. And I know there's a lot of good content out there, but the disorganization kind of threw me off. So this would probably help me a lot.
You could have a whole sports list and then only see the people who are actually tweeting about things that you're interested in versus some of the other stuff or people you're following, and just because a courtely follow back or something.
I might have to reactivate my account.
Add Daniel Tate.
Yeah.
All right, very cool. So the last thing, let's talk about YouTube a little bit. So YouTube has a feature. It's the offline mixtape. Have you used this?
I have not, which is I'm a huge YouTube user in general. I mean, I pay for YouTube Red, so that's probably why. But this is kind of a new thing for those of you who aren't interested in YouTube Red at the moment. I think this is YouTube's way of maybe introducing some of YouTube Red's features in a limited way. Then once you get used to it, start using a little bit more, then maybe you'll pay for their premium platform. Yeah,
no, definitely. Have you ever heard of this, YouTube offline mixtape at all?
I haven't.
No, okay, so this is interesting. I hadn't either.
It's pretty new.
And but this is a new feature, and what it allows you to do is basically while you're sleeping, while it's connected and plugged in to the Wi-Fi and to the power, it'll download songs to your phone that allows you to play them offline throughout the next day. And the the songs that you're downloading are just based off of an algorithm, so they're just random stuff. And so you can get it, and then the next day you can actually just hit play and start listening to it.
I think
and
this
so
is
kind of a cool feature,
direct
right?
response to the success of Spotify and even to an extent Pandora. And it's similar to, so those platforms have a similar structure in that if you're not paying for the premium version, you can still, the app itself will pick songs to play for you for free, and maybe there's some ads in there, but you can still listen to the music. But you can only select certain songs if you're actually paying for Spotify Premium.
Yeah.
So what YouTube is trying to do, I think, is get more people using their platform for music, which originally I think is a lot of people use YouTube for before some of these music platforms came out.
Yep.
So they're offering you this little bit of capability that YouTube Red actually does. Let's say you paid for YouTube Red, you could pick all the songs you wanted to listen to, download them onto your phone when you're in Wi-Fi, and then you can listen to them offline, and you can pick what songs. And so now YouTube is giving everyone with that for free the opportunity to download some songs, but with some limited capabilities, so that hopefully you start using the application more for your music interests. And then now that you're using the platform for that purpose, maybe you'll upgrade to YouTube Red.
Yeah, no, I've definitely seen YouTube, like they're definitely getting into that mainstream media, right? They're getting into TV, they're getting into movies, they're getting into music now, right? And they're really trying to get, all of their users that go on there to watch, viral videos or whatever, the free content, trying to get them over into using the platform for all of their sort of online streaming media that they would. So do you like YouTube Red?
I love YouTube Red, but I'm not someone who uses YouTube for music, but I think that's just out of habit. It's one of those things where like your go-to apps are the ones that you use every day, and so this makes sense to me because the more familiar you are with it and the more reliant you are on it, then maybe they can get more people to use this YouTube Red platform, which I'm all for because then they have more content on there and it'll start to grow kind of like Netflix has.
Yeah.
The more people who have it, the more money they can invest in some new original content.
Yeah, definitely. Daniel, what do you think about it?
I think it's a great idea because originally I was using YouTube for music, but what really killed it for me is I had to have my phone on the whole time, the screen. So I know that changed with YouTube Red.
Yep.
But I started using what they're using it for now with the music, and they didn't have that capability. So now that they do, I might switch over because I do use YouTube for all different types of videos and everything else. And since I'm already always on it, maybe I could always also use it for music.
Yeah, no, that's good. Yeah, it's so take a look at that. It's YouTube's offline mixtape, and so take a look at that. It's a cool feature and should be interesting to watch to see how that progresses.
Yeah, now's the time when they first roll these things out. We see, in 6 months, are we talking about how I can't believe I listen to music any other way?
Yeah.
Or remember that one time that YouTube had that download thing?
Right.
So we'll see 6 months from now. It'll be like a little time capsule. We'll look back and we'll see where this really goes.
Exactly. We'll see. Well, that's it for in the news. But let's get into some meat and potatoes here, right? So let's talk about Taylor. Taylor's going to talk to us today about some business marketing ideas and where to get them, because everyone's looking for different ideas for how to market themselves better. There's a lot of content out there. How do you weigh through it all? What can I get for free, obviously, and what can I get that's there's a lot of value. So tell us about that.
There are a lot of different resources for a lot of different skill levels, I think, and it just depends. I mean, some people, this is what they're interested in doing full time, like us, and then there are some business owners who maybe at this moment they don't have the budget to bring someone on their team or to hire out, that they themselves want to better their skills and become more interested in digital marketing. And so there are lots of resources, both paid and free, that I think people of different skill level can utilize. So if we're talking about someone who maybe is a little bit more interested in the nitty-gritty of things, like they already know a baseline, they are really interested in digital marketing and they want to take their marketing to the next level or become better digital marketers themselves, I think podcast is a great place to go to.
Yeah.
This is something that I'm actually looking to experiment more a little bit because I already listen to a lot of podcasts just for my personal interests, and I like to incorporate that more into my work life as well. And there's so many digital marketing podcasts out there. Some of the big companies have them, even some smaller creators have them. But the thing with the podcast is that they are a little bit more technical, and I think you have to have a baseline understanding of some of our best practices that we talk about, or maybe you're into more of the marketing on a day-to-day basis to be interested in the podcast. But I think it definitely is a huge resource. It's completely free, and there's tons of untapped information there.
Yeah, so the podcast, so like finding some podcasts about marketing, best practices, things like that.
Yeah.
Cool, yeah.
The next would be if you're interested in learning more about this about yourself, but maybe you're a beginner, is that there are a lot of digital marketing classes that you can sign up for. These are typically beginner friendly. I know we talk about sometimes here on the panel that we have social media help desk coming up. Sorry, that's what we're doing right now. We have social media boot camp coming up. So we have one in Atlanta coming up this month, and then we have one coming up here in October. And these are classes that we offer, and I'm sure there are some other digital marketing classes out there as well. They're typically really beginner friendly, and you can learn the basics of the different social media platforms and decide what's best for you. What do you want to dive into a little bit more? And maybe if you haven't done much of the marketing side, now you can learn what platform do I want to become an expert in for myself. And so I know our classes go over Facebook, LinkedIn, Pinterest, Instagram, and YouTube. And those are the big players. And then you can find out, okay, I want to really dive into Instagram and learn more about the technical aspects of that.
Yeah.
Another free option would be webinars. Webinars is one that we internally utilize a ton, and I think that all business owners can utilize, and a lot of people out there who are looking for some more techniques they can apply for themselves. This is a great place to go. One of my favorite things about webinars is that there are some how-tos out there, and it can get really specific. So if you're looking for, I want to know how to run ads for my e-commerce company specializing in clothing. There's a webinar out there, I'm sure, that focuses on those very specific details. You can even look up, how do I do this? I mean, YouTube is a huge free resource with free video content, and you can learn how to accomplish one task that you're looking for. So when you want to learn how to do one thing really well, I think a webinar is definitely the place to go. I know we internally, both our web department and our content team, we utilize webinars a lot to expand our knowledge.
Yeah, it's more like tools and tactics.
Yeah, and new things that are coming. Like, there's so many things that are happening that are new. The way you did Facebook ads last year is completely different to how we do them now.
Totally. And
so that's a great resource where you can always find the newest things and the things you need to be knowing in the new year, that kind of stuff.
Cool, very cool.
The last one is certifications, which I and Daniel, both of us, have been really heavily into this year in 2019, and we've been making a concerted effort to get more involved with some certifications. So I just did the Facebook Blueprint certification.
Yes. And
these can be great because it really gives you a full 360 complete look at whatever you're trying to learn. So that was the biggest thing going into the Facebook certification, is that there are things that you do on Facebook ads, some more often than others. There's so many capabilities there. And what the ad certification really did is teach you how to do every single aspect of that certification correctly in the way that, because it's put on by Facebook, the way that it's meant to be done. Best practices in the platform that you're paying for's eyes. And that was really eye-opening to me. It's a great resource. And there are so many certifications out there, both free and paid. Daniel, what were the web team working on? Some Google certifications, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, and then working on some UX, UI design certifications.
Google Analytics.
Yeah, Google Analytics. There's YouTube. Like, virtually every platform out there have these certifications, whether they're just kind of like classes that you go through and at the end you get a certification, or a full-on paid for a badge. There's lots of different options. I'm sure you can find one that would work for you. And there's limitless options really out there to become a real expert in one area. This is definitely the most advanced out of all of them, but you're going to get the most value out of it.
Yeah, no, definitely. And there's when you talk about certifications, there's a lot of certifications out there.
Yes.
And so try to find the one that's like the most legit, because there's a lot of them that are not very legitimate, and there are some that aren't going to serve you much good.
Yeah, and a lot of them they take a lot of time to invest in, so you want to make sure that you're investing both your time and money in something that is, like you said, legitimate, that you're actually going to learn from.
Right.
And then at the end of the day, it's going to mean something to other people.
Definitely. So great tips. So podcasts, classes like our boot camp, webinars, and then certifications. So those are 4 great ways that you can get more information and do it in a way that is going to give you like a lot of value.
Yeah,
you
that's
know?
the biggest thing I think.
Yeah, because I think there's a lot of information out there about this, but how are you going to get value? And sometimes you have to spend a little bit more time, maybe even invest a little bit of money. But we've found that by doing that, you're going to get a lot more value out of that time spent than just trying to read through, you know, whatever article was posted on Inc. magazine, Inc.com or something. No offense to Inc.com, but you know, it's more for you know, it's a different purpose.
Yeah.
So thank you, Taylor. That's very, very helpful. So next we're going to move over to Daniel. So Daniel, you're going to talk to us today about ADA compliant websites, right?
ADA compliance, yes.
So
ADA,
what does that mean?
American Disabilities Act.
Okay, cool.
They set some standards for how to have your website be usable for people with disabilities.
Okay.
So actually, Taylor, during my certification class for my user experience, the number one rule is you're not the user. So you have to keep in mind how everyone else is using your website. So there is 57 million people with disabilities. So you have to keep in mind that they need to be able to access your website as well.
Cool.
So the ADA has set some standards for websites to help make it so people with disabilities can go onto your website.
Okay.
So legally, organizations that are classified as commercial and public entities that benefit the public need to adhere to those standards to make sure that, you know, credit unions, people with disabilities can go on their website and check their bank account and pay their bills, everything like that. So if you're one of those organizations, make sure you pass all those rules because legally you need to. But even if you're not one of those organizations, it's really important for you to still kind of be ADA compliant. And there's a couple steps in which you could test your website to see. The one that we use, which is kind of general, is called Lighthouse from Google. And that runs a quick test and a little audit, and it tells you how compliant you are. And then it lists out everything that isn't compliant. So let's say if you're deaf and you want to go on your computer. Well, they have text readers that read through your website. So they could hit tab and it reads everything to your website, and you want to make sure it has it's written out well and that your images have alt tags. So when it goes to an image, the alt text that you put on there, it will read it. So it will be like picture of family purchasing a new car or something like that. So that way they kind of understand what's going on they understand what's going on the website, and they can kind of basically get through it, which is kind of, you know, interesting.
Yeah, definitely. So so you're saying that if someone is blind, right, and they can't read it, but they still obviously have to use the internet, then this allows them, they've got tools that allows them to hover over things, and then it speaks it to them essentially.
Exactly.
Right?
And like you said with the user experience, you're, as a developer, you're not the audience, or you're not the user in this situation. There are other people who need to be able to utilize those websites in the way that works for them. So that makes complete sense.
And then so that's if you're blind, then you can't, you know, you need the text reader. But also, like, let's say people whose vision's kind of getting a little worse, you need to have contrast between the letters, you know? So you want to make sure that there's enough contrast between the background and the text. Sometimes there's text, you know, over images and everything like that. So there's tools to help you with that. There's a color picker tool. All these are going to be in the blog, so if you want to find the links, go in the blog. But there's a color picker tool that basically helps out the best contrast for text on a website.
Cool.
And then also, if, let's say, you're deaf and you want to go on a website, you know, you could see the website, you think everything would be fine. But if you have a video on the website, it's kind of hard for them to hear what's going on. So it's very good to have a transcript, and text below the video, basically reading out what's going on the video. So that would really help out people who have those issues.
Cool. Yeah, no, that's great. And so, this is, you know, financial institutions should, you know, definitely have this government education. Like when you think about those types of businesses or organizations, those are really the ones that fall under this. But it's definitely best practice for everyone, and we're seeing the law become broader and broader and sort of start incorporating more and more business into this. And so if you are building a new website or have a current website and serve a broader audience, it's definitely something you should be looking at and asking your web developer about, because making a website ADA compliant that isn't currently can be a bit of a project. It can be a lot of work, especially to actually get it ADA compliant. And so it's much easier to build one from the beginning that is already ADA compliant, because you can build it in such a way that will become compliant. Yeah. And so, there's a blog post that is on our website, and we'll post it below as well, and it's got a lot of links to some helpful information and some tools. And so if you're not sure if yours is, you can look at those. You can also reach out to us directly. We're happy to let you know about that. So thank you, Daniel. Yeah. Taylor, any thoughts on that?
I think it's really important, because as business owners, you want everyone to be able to utilize your service. So I think it's something that everyone, especially with the laws, are clearly putting an emphasis on this, and I think it's something that everyone should be aware of, and then be taking steps towards improving.
Yeah, no, absolutely, 100%. Next week.